Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradari Jaya Girivaradari. Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajana Ranjana. Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Brajana Ranjana. Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radhe Vrindavan Chandra Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radhe. Jai Jai Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radhe Vrindavan Chandra Radha Vrindavan Chandra Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra. Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai Gauranitai Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Nityalila Pravishta Parivrajakaacharya Ashtotra Shatashi Srimad His Divine Grace Abhichanaranda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Thakur Haridas Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Dham Ki Jai. ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय. श्री नवदीप मायापुर धाम की जय. पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्रम श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय. श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी की जय. भक्ति देवी की जय. तुलसी महारानी की जय. गंगा मैया की जय. यमुना मैया की जय. समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय. वर्ल्ड वाइड ISKCON की जय. ISKCON NVCC Pune की जय. गौर प्रेमानंदी हरि 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 बोल. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Shaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Shinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Hyabadrani Vidhanoti Suhritsatam Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Ruttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Jai. Hare Krishna. We'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Grantaraj, Canto 6, Chapter 5, Text 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha Tasyam cha pancha janyam vai Vishnu Mayopa Brahmhitaha Haryashva Sangyam Ayutam Putran Ajanayad Vibhuho Tas Shri Sukha Uvacha Tasyam cha panchajanyam vai Vishnu Mayopa Brahmitaha Haryashva Sangyam Ayutam Putran Ajanayat Vibhuho. Shri Shuka Uvacha Tasyam Sapanchajanyam vai Vishnu Mayopa Brahmitaha Haryashva Samyam Ayutam Putran Ajanayat Vibhuho. Shri Shuka Uvacha Tasyam cha panchajanyam vai Vishnu Mayopa Brahmitaha Haryashva Sangyam Putran Ajanayat Vibhuho. Shri Shuka Uvacha Tasyam cha panchajanyam vai Vishnu Mayopa Brahmitaha Haryashva Sangyam Putran Ajanayat Vibhuho. Shri Shuka Uvacha Tasyam cha panchajanyam vai Vishnu Mayopa Brahmitaha Haryashva Sangyam Putran Ajanayat Vibhuho. Matajis. Shri Shuka Uvacha Tasyam cha panchajanyam vai Vishnu Mayopa Brahmitaha Haryashva Sangyam Putran Ajanayat Vibhuho. Word-to-word translations. Shri Shuka Uvacha. Shri Shukadeva Goswami said, Tasyam, in her, Saha, Prajapati Daksha, Panchajanyam, his wife named Panchajani, Vai, indeed, Vishnu Maya Upabrahmitaha, being made capable by the illusory energy of Lord Vishnu, Haryashva Sangyam, named the Haryashvas, Ayutam, 10,000, Putran, sons, Ajanayat, begot, Vibhuhu, being powerful. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Shukadeva Goswami continued, impelled by the illusory energy of Lord Vishnu, Prajapati Daksha begot 10,000 sons in the womb of Panchajani, Asikni. My dear king, these sons were called the Haryashvas. Since there is no purport, we will continue until verse 8, in which there is a purport, and then we'll discuss that. We'll read the translations for the remaining verse. My dear king, all the sons of Prajapati Daksha were alike in being very gentle and obedient to the orders of their father. When their father ordered them to beget children, they all went in the western direction. In the west, where the river Sindhu meets the sea, there is a great place of pilgrimage known as Narayana Saras. Many sages and others advanced in spiritual consciousness live there. In that holy place, the Haryashvas began regularly touching the lake's waters and bathing in them. Gradually becoming very much purified, they became inclined toward the activities of Paramahamsas. Nevertheless, because their father had ordered them to increase the population, they performed severe austerities to fulfill his desires. One day, when the great sage Narada saw those boys performing such fine austerities to increase the population, Narada approached them. The great sage Narada said, "My dear Haryashvas, you have not seen the extremities of the earth. There is a kingdom where only one man lives, and where there is a hole from which, having entered, no one emerges. A woman there, who is extremely unchaste, adorns herself with various attractive dresses, and the man who lives there is her husband. In that kingdom, there is a river flowing in both directions, a wonderful home made of 25 materials, a swan that vibrates various sounds, and an automatically revolving object made of sharp razors and thunderbolts. You have not seen all this, and therefore you are inexperienced boys without advanced knowledge. How then will you create progeny?" Jai Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra ki Jai, Shri Shri Jagannath Balram Subhadra ki Jai, Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki Jai. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitangsha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deena Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrinda Vaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Indridumna Swamanita Namane Nama Prabhupada Priyadasaya Jagannatha Yatrananda Murte Bhakta Sukhaya Krishnot Kirtanena Narshingena Rakshitaya Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamanita Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So I'm feeling so pleased and honored to welcome and introduce one of my very dear friends. We've known each other for many years. His Grace Govind Charan Prabhu. And I'd like to start the introduction how he likes it. He is a disciple of His Holiness Indradumna Swami Maharaj. That's his personality. He likes to represent himself in that way, that I'm a disciple of Indradumna Swami Maharaj. So I thought I should also start in that way. So he got initiated in the year 2003 in the West, in US. And this was after 6 years. In 1997, he had gone to the US for a master's degree. He got his degree in computer science in Chennai. That's where he was born and brought up. And then he went to the US for a master's in computer science. And then what happened? He got a Bhagavad Gita. He got connected to some devotees. And his aspiration changed. Of course, he got his master's in computer science, but now he wanted to master what? The science of Krishna consciousness. And then following that, he met his spiritual master, Indradumna Swami Maharaj. He got initiated in 2003. He spent many years in Seattle. He's been primarily in the west coast of America, North America. He was in Seattle for about 10-ish years. Then now he moved to Silicon Valley, where he's been there, and even currently he's based there. He's serving His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu Maharaj very wonderfully for the last 10 years there. I would just primarily like to mention with you all, both he and his wife, Her Grace Rasika Shiromani Mataji, what type of sacrifice they have made for their spiritual master. Mataji was also working over there. She just gave up her job just to serve Maharaj full time. And even today she keeps traveling with Maharaj. Both of them, they keep traveling with Maharaj. Even right now she's in Nepal, coordinating one yatra of Maharaj with currently. So I'd like to mention 3 wonderful services that both of them have been, very outstanding services. Despite, for some of you all, I don't know if you all know of the lifestyle in America, it's very difficult to do what they are doing. Especially he's worked in companies like Microsoft, Google, all these big companies, multinational companies. And over there also he does preaching, he gives a lot of seminars and presentations and all. You have to give technical presentations over there. So first I will mention is, they organize this Kirtan festival in North America, which is called Sadhu Sangha Retreat. I remember I attended the first one in Austin. We were about 200-300 devotees, very small festival. And today we get something like 2,000 devotees. 2,000 honge na? Now for you all, 2,000 might seem a very small number, right? In India, 2,000 kuch bhi nahi. But in US to get 2,000 devotees, trust me, it's big numbers. And we get something like 30-40 Prabhupada disciples, Maharajas come, and they stay in the West, as I said, in Seattle, Silicon Valley. And this festival happens in the East, Tennessee, Dallas. Ye sab bahut dur hai. Truthfully, I don't know how they do it. I've seen them, I've heard that they spend sleepless nights. And even when the festival is going on, you won't see both him and Mataji. They'll be out, organizing everything. And the festival goes on so wonderfully. Big sacrifice. From Seattle, they organize this Kirtan Sadhu Sangha retreat in the East. I told him yesterday, the only thing I miss of US is that Sadhu Sangha retreat. It's so well organized. Then it doesn't end there. Then it goes beyond that. What is the next festival that Indradu Maharaj organizes? In Europe. Poland. Kirtan festival of India, right? So from US, they coordinate, they help Maharaj in Poland. So many times they'll leave, they give up. I don't know how he does. He takes vacations and all, and he'll go to Poland to help Maharaj over there for the festival of India. It doesn't end there. So from US, they come to Europe. And then from Europe, in every Kartik month, they come to India. Maharaj likes to have, he's been having it for years, the Kartik Yatra. Some of you all may have attended. I attended some of them in Vrindavan. Indradu Maharaj organizes this 1 month Kartik Yatra festival. And he and his wife are instrumental. Mataji comes before only. That's why she left her job also. And he'll also come, and they spend so many sleepless nights just, organizing that festival. So I can talk so much. Of course, all of you all want to hear him more than me. But both of them, it's a life of sacrifice. I've got so much inspiration and encouragement from them. So, and I will not end before mentioning one thing at least, which he told me to make sure that I mention, that he always feels obligated and gratitude to his wife. He tells me that everything she does, मैं खाली उसको assist करता हूँ. So he's always very grateful to Mataji, and when you talk to Mataji, she'll say the same thing, that I'm always grateful to him for, giving me such an opportunity. So it's our very great fortune, good fortune to have him here. We'll be hearing from him. Let us welcome Govind Charan Prabhu by one time chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's mentioned how Lord Chaitanya glorifies his devotees as if he had 5 mouths. And, and we know His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj has the same mood. Wherever he goes, he always glorifies his God brothers and devotees. So I can see how Ramchandra Prabhu is carrying on the same mood. And thank you for the introduction, Prabhu. Yeah. So since I was reading all the translation, I forgot the purport. After coming here, yes. So we'll start with the purport by His NVCC Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Narada Muni saw that the boys known as Haryashvas were already purified because of living in that holy place and were practically ready for liberation. Why then should they be encouraged to become entangled in family life, which is so dark that once having entered it, one cannot leave it. Through this analogy, Narada Muni asked them to consider why they should follow their father's order to be entangled in family life. Indirectly, he asked them to find within the cores of their hearts the situation of the Super Soul, Lord Vishnu, for then they would truly be experienced. In other words, one who is too involved in his material environment and does not look within the core of his heart is increasingly entangled in the illusory energy. Narada Muni's purpose was to get the sons of Prajapati Daksha to divert their attention towards spiritual realization instead of involving themselves in the ordinary but complicated affairs of propagation. The same advice was given by Prahlad Maharaj to his father, Srimad Bhagavatam 755. Tatsadu manne suravarya dehinam sada samudvigna diyam asatgrihat hitvatma patam grihamanda kopam vanam tadoyatanim ashayat. In the dark well of family life, one is always full of anxiety because of having accepted a temporary body. If one wants to free himself from this anxiety, one should immediately leave family life and take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vrindavan. Narada Muni advised the Haryashvas not to enter household life. Since they were already advanced in spiritual knowledge, why should they be entangled in that way? Jai. This purport discusses this $1,000,000 questions for brahmacharis, right? Whether I should stay brahmachari or get married. And generally people don't, when grahasthas give the advice that don't get married, they think this guy is cheating. But actually, if you really see, it's always the grass is greener on the other side. So, in this verse, the most important point here is that Narada Muni saw their qualification. So that's the main essence of this decision, as well as any other decision we make in Krishna consciousness. It's always depend on this adhikar. Am I qualified for that particular service? So it's not that one is good or bad. We can serve Krishna in many ways. The most important principle is to find that position in which we can best serve and maximize our impact. It's all a, you can say, strategy. The nature of the service is absolute. Whether we are brahmachari, savana, prastha, sannyas, or brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, sudra, the essence of all this is how much closer to Krishna we come as a result of our material situation. So we just strategize that in a way to maximize the impact we have on our spiritual life and on our service and our ability to serve the movement. So if you always keep that goal in mind, then it's much easier to make these decisions and be committed to that. In fact, it may seem like grahastha ashram is actually easier than a brahmachari ashram, but actually that's quite opposite, because generally when you ask the bachelors, why do you want to get married, he said, I don't know to cook, my food problem will be solved. So when you are single, food is the only problem. Afterwards, everything except food will become a problem. Right? So the question is, what do you want to trade off? Sorry, you want to raise it? Similarly, one time one disciple asked their spiritual master, should I get married? He said, yeah. And he says, why? Like, it's better to suffer together than suffer alone. So you can get different advice depending on what is, the mood or the strategy. So the difference is only in the details. But the essence in all this is the nature of the material world is the same. And the nature of spiritual life is the same. So we need, it's not like a, so the mic just changed the ashram. Hare Krishna, you're able to hear? Okay. Hare Krishna. Is it better? I think that's the same point we are discussing. Right? So what we think one thing is better, but it's not. It's, everything comes with its, cost and benefit. So, yeah, so that's why it's so important to have a spiritual master who can give us that direction. So as Prabhuji was saying, I kind of went through that, the same dilemma. I mean, even though I was not trained as a brahmachari, but the same thing applies even for everybody. Like, for example, like whether I should work or become a full-time devotee. Right? That decision can be there even for grihasthas, or should I continue working or should I retire? Right? Should I settle here or settle there? Should I do this service or that service? So the challenge is there for all of us, but the most important point is to see what we are particularly qualified for, and then maximize our impact in that direction. So that's where the principle is same, but the application is different for different devotees. And Krishna says it's better to do your own duty, even though imperfectly, than do another's duty perfectly. So one should understand one nature, and that's what Narada Muni is advising the Haryashvas to do here. Reach within the core of your heart and find the super soul. Right? For us, we can understand the same thing to be really understand our nature and connect with Krishna according to our nature. Then at least we are not constantly going against our nature and trying to serve Krishna in that way. So we can use our nature as a like a tool to actually surrender to Krishna in that particular way. So what is food for one may be poison for another. So there is no need to imitate, but follow the orders of the spiritual master. So if we do that, then irrespective of the details, we come closer to Krishna at the end of our life and achieve the benefit of the Krishna consciousness. So also what Narada Muni is doing here is a kind of a dangerous proposal. He's trying to change the service of the Haryashvas because they were directed by their father to do the service in a particular way. So sometimes as managers, we know sometimes the devotee is given a particular service by another manager or by their spiritual master, and then we may have our own desire for the service for that particular devotee. So we have to be very careful with that. Of course, Narada Muni is extremely qualified to do that, but because giving advice is generally very easy. So that's what when before I got initiated, His Grace Mukunda Datta Prabhu, the scholar who translates BBT books. So he's our Siksha Guru. He lives in Vrindavan now. So I used to ask him, this was time when I was working in the West. Is serving by earning money and donating, is that the service Krishna wants me to do? Or should I, try to become a full-time devotee, move back to India and become a full-time devotee in some temple, because in US you can't even become a full-time devotee because you need a visa to work with. So I was asking whether, and he said, that's why you need a spiritual master, because I cannot answer that question. Even though he is so qualified, he shows that example of that humility, because he says once you give a advice, you are also responsible for the outcome of that advice. In this case, we can see actually later in the chapter that Narada Muni gets cursed, that he can't, stay in one place. So there is consequence of giving advice. So that's why one has to be qualified, and also preaching is always a challenge, because we are, and this verse beautifully describes the dilemma that is there, because this world, Krishna himself says in the Bhagavad Gita, Sahayagya praja shishtva purovacha prajapati anena prasavishyadvam eshavostu ishtakamaduk. So this world itself is meant for this dual purpose, which is to have so-called enjoyment and at the same time return back to Godhead. It's designed in such a way, all the yagyas are meant in such a way such that the conditioned souls can fulfill their so-called propensity to enjoy, but that enjoyment alone is not the goal. The real goal is to transcend that and become fully Krishna conscious and then go back to Godhead. So because of these two conflicting purposes are there for this world. That's why the Bhagavatam elsewhere says this whole world is actually not needed. It says anartho pasamam sakshat. The entire world is actually, you can say, redundant. It's not needed. It's just like a prison in a state is not actually needed. If everybody behaves properly, you don't need a prison at all. So the prison is in a sense redundant. But then because of the nature of people to not follow, then you need a prison, and you need to give a facility for those who are straying away from the Krishna consciousness, and then accommodate them and reform them, and then bring them back to the society. So while you are in the prison, the goal is not enjoying the prison, it's to reform, it's to come out. So because of that, that tension is always there between what we want to do in this world and our ultimate goal. So that's why the spiritual masters are qualified to make that judgment and make that evaluation, and then give the direction to a particular disciple. Okay, do this way, that's good for you, and that way may be different for another devotee. So, it's not like one is higher or one is lower, it's just what works for you. And so the main principle is, by following that spiritual instructions, we get the full benefit. Even in this, so we were just finishing up the Rishikesh festival, where Solani Sindhudu Maharaj organized a Kirtan festival for like 20 days. So many Western devotees came every day and took prasadam and heard the Kirtans. So we were serving there, and within a matter of a week, I was in 2 instances where Maharaj gave completely opposite instructions to 2 devotees. One devotee wanted to retire, and Maharaj told, no, this is not your dharma at this time of your age. He was like only 45 or so. He says, I haven't retired yet. There's no hurry for you to retire. Because Maharaj is so active, even though he's like 74, he's like extremely active, both physically and spiritually. So he said, this is not the time for you to retire. So another devotee, similarly, they said, I want to actually work and donate. He said, no, I want your time more than the money. Like that. So for some people, their time is the most valuable thing. For some people, the money is the most valuable thing that they can offer. So like that. So as a society, naturally, we are all very diverse. Everybody has different nature. But the beauty of Krishna consciousness is that everything can be engaged. That's called Sankirtan. It's like complete glorification of the Lord by different devotees in different situations. And then everybody gets the benefit of everybody's seva. Just like we have this beautiful temple here. So
So after the Rishikesh festival was over, like I had like 4 or 5 days free before I catch my flight back to US on Sunday. So I had like several choices to go to, but I chose Pune here because of all of you actually. Such wonderful association, such potent association. So this is my recharging of my batteries here, and in the beautiful association of Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandra, Jagannath Baldev Subhadra, Gaurnitai, and I had to work in the night, so I couldn't come for morning programs every day. But just by being here, it's for me it's like more precious than even Shivandavan Dham or Mayapur Dham, because it's like so potent with all your enthusiasm. So that's the real wealth of this temple, all of you. So I'm feeling very grateful for that, to have your association. And you can see how, even though we are all very diverse, when we come together, it creates such a powerful atmosphere where each of us can grow and thrive. So keeping that focus is the most important thing in spiritual life. It's not us doing alone. We are always serving with devotees, and we have to keep that bigger goal in mind. Yeah, so actually when I started my work, I was actually working in India. At that time, just like Narada Muni is asking this Hari Ashwas to look within the core of the heart and find out the situation of the super soul here. So I was always asking this question: what is my purpose? Because I was like doing book distribution in Chennai at that time for a couple of years before I went to US, and I was quite happy living that life. But then my parents, my father especially, at that time was not a devotee, so he was thinking, your friends preach to you and they are in US, why are you here? Like that. So it was like I was thinking, and had a kind of a very tight family, and my father would know my passbook and all the expenditure, and so I wanted to donate to the temple, but like my hands were tied, and I was thinking I'm not able to donate money, I'm not able to donate time, because even time, he was like a little protective, and even if you go to the temple, I can't say that I went to the temple because then he'll get alarmed. I said I went with some friends somewhere. So I was like living in a very restricted environment at the time, and then I was thinking, what is the purpose? That's when he said, okay, since he wanted me to go to US and work, I just use it as an opportunity to just go there. And so at that time I had a feeling that because even though because the situation in the Chennai temple was like very blissful, and generally when you leave a situation, then you can easily get attached to the comforts of the West. So that was a concern. So based on the advice of friends, I said, okay, we hear from Rupa Goswami's instruction that one should allocate 50% of the money for Krishna consciousness, and 25% to the family, and 25% for emergency. So I was trying to follow a similar instruction, like I had allocated like 1/3 of my income so that I don't get attached and be like that. So the good thing with that kind of arrangement was I don't have to think every time I need to make a donation whether I have enough or not, because you once make a decision, and in fact I even separated my bank accounts. Okay, this one is for donation only, and this one is for living. So whatever comes here is fine, whatever goes here is fine. So you make a decision once, and then you don't have to make it every time, because our Guru Maharaj says when you give a donation, it should pinch your heart, because money is like blood. It's like when you give blood, there is some pain involved in it, right? So but the principle is, since we are not able to reach full time, because we have to have a job, because of family situation or because of our personal situation, whatever it is. But the obligation to all of us as preachers of Krishna consciousness doesn't go away in whichever ashram you are. And it doesn't matter how much you earn. One can say, yeah, you are able to do because you are earning this much. But if you look at Kolavich Sridhar's example, he was earning only, so little. And even within that, he gave 50% for Ganga Puja. So the fact that I don't have enough is actually an illusion. So sometimes when devotees say, I don't have money to donate, I ask them, imagine you got a layoff situation, or something happened at your work, you got demoted, or some financial thing happened. Let's say you only have half your income. Would you die? No, you won't. You would still find a way to survive within that, right? So technically, we can give a lot more to Krishna than what we think we can, right? And if you look at the brahmacharis, they are like, of course, so many of you, they are all so qualified. If you went out, you could earn much, much, much more. But you have dedicated your entire life for serving, because if everybody is earning and donating money, who is there to preach? That is also an imbalance, right? So by Krishna's arrangement, naturally, different devotees are qualified for different services. But by all of us coming together, we make such an impact in the world. So that's why we need to have that broader focus and look at the mission in a broader way and say how I can help the mission. And in that process, yes, we factor in our natures and our social situation or personal situation, and then work our way through that. But all said and done, we should all feel like we are all full-time devotees in one way or other, whether we are working in the temple or outside the temple. That obligation is not going away, because that's what the obligation is. When I say obligation, it's more of a responsibility, because that's how Srila Prabhupada gave his entire life throughout his life. In fact, Srila Prabhupada was trying this strategy. First, let me stabilize my business and earn money through the business, and then use the money for preaching. But Krishna had a different plan. He didn't fulfill that particular way of Prabhupada's service. And in fact, Prabhupada tried several times and the business failed, and it got his business got stolen. But he adapted to it and then found what Krishna wanted him to do. And then if Krishna had made Prabhupada successful at an early age, for example, then we'll be thinking, that is how it works. But then Krishna had a greater example to be shown for humanity. Look, this person at 70 years of age, with only 40 rupees in hand, is crossing the ocean to deliver the people of the Western world. And you can very clearly see that there is no material explanation for his success. So anybody that reads this life history knows this possible only by Krishna's grace, because what Prabhupada did is completely unimaginable and it's against all odds. So nobody can repeat that, because Prabhupada was so empowered and Krishna wanted to empower him in that particular way. But at no point Prabhupada was anxious for funds, because he had so much faith in Krishna that if Krishna wanted this to happen, he will make it happen. And that's the same mood, his disciples carried. Many of them still carry that. One time, Shyam Sundar Prabhu, one of the early devotees, he was saying they didn't have the money to pay the rent, and he was just chanting and walking on the street, and then dollar bills just were coming on the street. So that's how Krishna can go to that extent to take care of devotees. He was just walking on the street and they didn't have money to pay rent next day, but then just all of a sudden just dollar bills were floating on the street. and he picked them up and then used it. So like that. So devotees had this such intense, immense appreciation for the Prabhupada's faith. Prabhupada instilled that his faith in his disciples, that anything is possible. So as grand disciples and many of us, so we can like strive to imbibe that same mood. How to, again, it's not a particular ashram, whichever ashram we are in, how can I do my best to serve Krishna in this situation? In fact, one of my early mentors, he told me, when we first donate, we think this is my money and I am donating this portion. But later on, we'll come to the realization that it is actually Krishna's money and I'm taking this much for my maintenance. So that should be the transformation of consciousness, because ultimately Krishna is the owner of everything, right? So we all are naturally situated differently, but the goal is to find what is our service, and that's where the spiritual master gives that particular instruction. So we should be seeking only when we are ready to, even when you are asking a spiritual master, he is not going to answer you based on the face value. He knows your heart. Are you just asking for formality, or are you really meaning it? So one of my relatives is a small boy. He always wanted to be a brahmachari. He's like now in his teenager. So when he was like young, when we even tell them you'll get married, he'll start crying. Now after a few years, if you ask him, do you want to get married? He says, depends on what Gurudev wants me to do. I was thinking how it changes over years. So first he was so strong. Now he's saying, yeah, it depends on what Gurudev wants me to do. Like that. So the idea is, what your spiritual master will do, he also knows your heart, and then he'll guide according to your ability. Even for the same disciple, he may not give the same instruction, if they are not ready at that time. I've seen in interaction with our spiritual master that when devotees ask us a formality, he'll just give the general reply. But when you really mean it and you want to serve in a particular way, then he will authorize that particular way of service. So, because when you are not qualified and spiritual master gives you an instruction, then, and if you don't follow, then you get offense for disobeying the orders of the spiritual master. So they don't give an instruction when you are not ready for it. So at the same time, when we get the instruction, then that's our life and soul, and no more questions after that. It's all done and sealed. Then the entire life is dedicated to follow that instruction, like that. So it's our Krishna consciousness process is pretty simple. There are a lot of principles, but the essence of all that principle is always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna, and chant the holy names and be blissful like you are all here, and serve to the best of our ability to further the movement. If we keep this mood, then everything will be revealed. Again, not that everything we may know answers on demand. Like I want to know today. Sometimes your answers may not be revealed same day. It's not like a same day delivery, right? So sometimes it may take time for you to understand. But over time, even sometimes the instructions of the spiritual master, we may take it sometimes at a face value. But then when we actually progress and advance, we can see that there is a deeper way, there's a deeper meaning, and so the whole life is actually a journey of evolving through this path. And at the end, we'll be satisfied with whatever happens. That at the end of the life, we should go back. We should be able to face Krishna with a straight face and say, "I did my best." That's all matters. What the outcome is, Krishna doesn't mind that. because that we may or may not, our plans may or may not succeed. That doesn't matter, but our effort to serve the best at each point is what Krishna looks at. So yeah, that's any questions or comments that you would like to add, please.
No, that's brahmachari to grahastha to vanaprastha.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for such a wonderful and amazing class, actually. Full of realization, actually. I like that your one specific point that, obligation to serve is always there, whether you feel you have capacity or not. Like, I'm going to say many times as a grahastha, we give many excuses, We need to be practical, for rendering services, whenever in services, or maybe attending programs, or giving donation, maybe coming to Mangal Arati for morning program. This is always just, be practical. It's very common terminology used by grahasthas. We need to be practical. So the being practical is one thing, but also, we need to be very realistic. Like why your example is such an exemplary. The introduction was so wonderful. I want to say so encouraging, and how much you are doing. So I'm going to say how to come out of that. Sometimes being practical bring us to the stage where we become lethargic. Actually, even we are lethargic. We become lethargic. Yeah.
Yes.
Even there is capacity, we feel that we don't have capacity. Like you say, we can always give more than what we are actually giving. So how to, being a grahastha, how by your own example, whatever you are traveling so much, and so how you can explain this, to, how to, that make that balance, like, being realistic also, and just not to give excuse that how we should be practical, like that, devotees use that term.
Excellent. Actually, the Srimad Bhagavatam answers that. What is that? Bhajanna pakko atapato tato edi tektva swadharmam sharanam bhajam Hare. So the principle is that even if you are not fully qualified, try to surrender nonetheless. Even if you fall down from that position, it's better to have tried to surrender to your best than always being reluctant about it. Because even if you surrender and fail, that's a higher benefit than always being reluctant and not even attempting that. Like that's a practical application of it. So it's and actually Vaisheshika Prabhu gave a beautiful. He made a beautiful statement when like at a marriage ceremony of a friend. He said, sometimes we make decisions, right? The decisions may work or not work. But his point was, if the intention behind your decision is to increase your service for Krishna, and even if the decision is wrong, Krishna will make it right. Because your intention is to increase your service for Krishna. Whereas if your intention was to, like be more comfortable or buy a bigger house or plan for your retirement and security and all this other things which are not focused on increasing your service to Krishna, then in a sense you are to some extent on your own with the outcome, right? It may or may not work. But when the intention behind the decision is to increase my service to Krishna, then even if the decision is wrong, Krishna will make it right. So that faith we should have. And the whole life is an experiment. We can try applying this faith, and when we do it, we'll see that actually it works. We need to get over that reluctance or the hesitancy that we have in surrendering more. Every time we do that, we'll see that actually it works. So that you can say that's the most practical thing. We mentioned about this word practical, right? Practical means to practice, right?
So all these statements in the scriptures, they'll all come to life when we actually practice. For example, like, imagine if, like, there are so many devotees in our movement and so many projects to be, done. Imagine if everybody follows this rule of, okay, I'll give 50% of my income to Krishna consciousness projects. We would be doing way more preaching, and everybody who is contributing will be actually benefiting way more also. But, we are not there yet. But that potential is there. That's, imagine like if what Srila Prabhupada achieved in 12 years, right, 108 centers across the world. Now, even if you want to buy one home in some remote suburbs, you have to pay your entire, the loan across your entire life. That's how much one person can, like earn. Whereas when Srila Prabhupada, the movement was buying properties right in the downtown. Now, even as a working couple, you cannot buy such properties in downtown and pay for your entire life. But so much, resources were there because the devotees were completely dedicated and they were living so simple. By sacrificing their own personal needs and keeping it to a minimum, they were able to give everything. And that's because Prabhupada gave everything and he was able to instill that spirit. And then, and we are all benefiting now, all the BBT books are there because of the sacrifices of these devotees. If Srila Prabhupada and the early disciples, they didn't sacrifice that much, we wouldn't be here to have access to all this knowledge like that. So we have to be always grateful about that, and then try to do our best, because this is still only the second generation. And if this movement has to go on for 10,000 years, how much more we should sacrifice, and like, that should be our goal. And in that process, we also benefit. By the way, some of you may be knowing, you may be thinking, okay, if I have money in the bank, that's the safest thing. But no, banks themselves are going out of business. Imagine, like, you may think, okay, I'm not investing in real estate, I'm not in stocks, I just have this cash. But then one day, just the bank, everything just vaporizes. So what is the security, right? Whereas when you spend for Krishna, that is your real bank. Because since you already spent it for Krishna conscious purpose, nobody can take it away. That, neha bhikarmanashwasti is there. So that is the best saving. The best saving is to spend for Krishna today. There is no other guaranteed, you can say, return. Because this return is guaranteed at the end of the life and is completely safe investment. That's what Prabhupada, that's a mood Prabhupada had. That's why the movement spread so much. Prabhupada said, if you get $1 million in the evening, it should be spent next day. That's his mood. Because Prabhupada had that sense of urgency to spread Krishna consciousness. That's one thing very unique in ISKCON compared to many other traditional sampradayas. Prabhupada instilled that urgency that you have to finish your business in one life. Like that. We're not like, taking it like lightly. And then he instilled that mood. So whoever is able to imbibe that mood and contribute, they can see the benefit. And so all the words of the Shastras, they become manifested reality for them. In other words, it's not a faith, it's not a question of faith anymore. For them, it's all practical. So the point you mentioned, that the Shastras are actually practical. But we think Shastras are theoretical. That's because of the lack of faith. Whereas when you actually do what the Shastras say, then we'll see that the Shastras are actually practical. So, is that fair? Any other? Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandvat Pranam. So Prabhu, you mentioned like we all need to follow our nature. But how to figure out our nature? So sometimes it happens like when you are working for a job in some company and you are not satisfied with it, you may want to move. And like the body, you will keep on moving and you won't realize your true nature. So how to get that nature? Is it like probably you are meant for some spiritual service, or you are meant for, contributing through monetary means and all. So how to figure that out?
So, the basic principle is, what are you good at? Essentially, that's your nature. For example, our Panchajanya Prabhu, he's on a phone call from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. That's what his sister says. He's so good in connecting with people, getting things done just on the phone, right? So you can see that that's your nature, being able to connect with not somebody else, that you may not even be able to reach them on the phone. I have many wonderful devotees, never answer their phone, right? So then you don't want to take up a service that requires such communication and coordination and things like that. So the nature is not about this job or that job. The nature is, even is working even my nature. For example, if you like to study, if you like to preach about Krishna directly, that's what the Haryashvas, they were directly qualified, but out of obedience for their father, they were still willing to engage in progeny. Sometimes you may be qualified for more than one service, right? In this case, they were qualified for both, and then they were following their father's instruction to go on with the default plan. But then Narada Muni came and told them, yes, there are other people that can do that, but you are qualified for something higher which others are not qualified for. Then he will lift us up, like that. So when you have that strong desire to serve Krishna to the best of your ability, just like Narada Muni came and saved them, Krishna will send a spiritual master to you to help and understand your nature and then dedicate fully for that. But the question is, it starts with your desire to give yourself fully to Krishna. Then Krishna will do the needful. So so you can see whether because it's you may be thinking actually not working is easy, but it's not, because Krishna says nahi kashi shanamapi jatushtishtya karma krit, because it's very hard to not engage your propensities in a certain way. But Krishna conscious Prabhupada has given such a beautiful manner that whatever propensity you have a way to engage that in service. Of course, we know the caliber of the brahmacharis here, right? They are all extremely super talented, and even though they may not be working externally, but they do much more than people working outside. So it's not that the work is all, but then for whom are you working? If you can directly work for Krishna 24 hours a day, that's best. But if you can't, then next best is, you work and then donate the fruits of your work, because that's also needed, and that balances out like that. So you have to see if you're ready for that. So that's the nature we are talking about, are you able to serve to that capacity? And within, yes, once you decide that I'm going to work, then that's detail. Within the work, I'm choosing this job or this job. Those are all details that we can figure out as we go. But the main thing is to put Krishna first. Once you fix the goal and the purpose, then everything becomes easy to evaluate.
So one more question over here is, sometimes okay, this is your nature and all, okay, but still you are sometimes doubtful that, okay, if I go with this thing, let's say if I am I'm interested in studying and I go for studies, but how will that help me how will my family be maintained? How will I get the money? Sometimes you have a doubt on this Yogshama Mahamyam. Like Krishna says, Yogshama Mahamyam, I'll take care of it. But still you have a doubt in yourself, okay, if that doesn't happen, I'm studying and I'm doing everything, but now my family is suffering. So how to get rid of that doubt, actually?
Yeah, the way I answer that question for myself whenever I have this, let's say I died today. My family is not going to die, right? Somehow they will survive, correct? So that means Krishna is using me as an instrument to serve them today. Tomorrow, if this instrument goes away, he'll find some other instrument to serve them. So I'm not the cause of maintaining them. I'm just an instrument in the hand of Krishna according to the karmic situation at this present moment of time. Because they exist before me, they'll exist after me. This relationship is there. Even though it's a temporary relationship, we have to be dutiful during the temporary period. There's no doubt in that. But as that, everybody has their own time. The moment the clock ticks, then next person's responsibility kicks into, like that. So that's the principle here. So it's, even though we maintain, we should not think that we are maintaining them. We are only an instrument, and Krishna is actually maintaining them. In fact, same thing is true for our own job also. It's not that because I work in some company, that company is maintaining me. That's not true. Because you may still work and not get paid, and so many things may happen. So Krishna is actually maintaining me. I'm just working as a matter of, the duty to, because I have to do something like that. That is the reality. That's what Krishna says, Bhoktara Megatapa. He is the maintainer of all this universe. He's maintaining everybody actually.
Thank you, Prabhu. But sometimes, I forget that. This is, I know this is reality that he's maintaining everyone.
Yes.
But sometimes you start feeling like if you don't do this, probably these things won't happen.
Yes.
So that is one problem. But anyway,
Right. Again, while we are in that service, we have to do what is needed, but with this consciousness. That is where the stability comes from, because the material situation is always changing. If you focus only on the details, that's what it's also mentioned here, right? They got entangled in the environment. It was mentioning. Yeah. In other words, one who is too involved in his material environment and does not look within the core of his heart is increasingly entangled in the illusory energy. So we may have a certain environment, but we should learn to see Krishna through that environment without thinking that this environment is stable. Recently one of my friends told he had perfect job, everything was taken care, everything was going great. He was like a businessman, and then just one sudden day he just lost his job, and now he doesn't even know how to drive car in India because his company was sending Uber every day for him. Now he has to figure out those things. So he was mentioning how overnight things change. So we need to always when we are always reminded of that, then we are not too attached to the particular comfort, and so that's how we don't become lethargic. Just because I have things today, I don't think it's due to me. We should think that somehow or other Krishna has given me this arrangement. Let me give the best in this situation. Tomorrow, if everything is taken away, still you are giving your best out of what you have. That is constant. That doesn't change like that. That is how Krishna empowers. When he sees, in fact, this is what our spiritual master also told. Actually, devotees that give more actually get more to give. Krishna fulfills that. You think I'm actually losing by giving, but actually you will gain much more by giving. That's spiritual mathematics. I think we are out of time, I think, yeah. So thank you all again. Thank you for tolerating me and giving me a chance to glorify Srimad Bhagavatam. And thanks again. And please, I request personally to please pray so that I can come here again and again and benefit from your association and get inspired in my service. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
We'd like to thank His Govind Charan Prabhu for his sharing of wonderful realizations in Krishna consciousness. His personification of receiving mercy from His Holiness Indradunu Swami Maharaj. And he has offered his mind, body, words, family, job, salary. And that's why he can't compromise, you can't distract him from that goal of full surrender and complete dedication to the spiritual master. He lives by the principle of Manasa Deho Geho Jogi Chumur Arpilutva Pade Nandakishore. So he does his business, he works very hard. Last few days he has been working at night because of US timing. And all that hard work is just to earn some wealth, to completely dedicate and devote it in the service of Maharaj's yatras, projects, and so many things. Because Maharaj likes to give out. To give out, you have to have it. So recently also in the Rishikesh festival, they were inviting many of the Western members. Indians were upset why only Westerners are allowed. So they were doing that program. and distributing prasadam, which is a full feast for all the participants, and they want to do it year after year. Then the Poland festival, Sadhu Sangar, as His Grace Ramchandra Prabhu mentioned. So to give out, it takes a lot to get in also, to take in. So he's one of those who, take in and then give to Maharaj to give out to public and other devotees. So very dedicated, committed, wonderful Vaishnava. And we pray and hope that he come very soon next time, and then we'll keep a session on his interactions and his service to His Holiness Indradunu Swami Maharaj. It's a very inspiring journey and how he learned so many lessons in serving Maharaj. But it's a great joy to have such a dedicated, devoted personality amongst us. Let us thank him for his very wonderful presentation to all of us by once loudly chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra.